Hi, guys! Today, we'll be recapping a story called Country Life with His Sexy Majesty. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! First of all, our female lead is truly a good citizen. While she was in the modern world, she pursued agriculture and life sciences in college, aka farming, to contribute to the future of the country. This dedication even led to a bit of a tough time with her mom. Honestly, I really admire her for that. Farmers truly are the backbone of a country. Today, she finds herself at a fancy banquet when a man directly expresses his wish to end their engagement. She begins to shriek in pain and remembers that just before entering this new world, she was brewing coffee in her kitchen when suddenly, boom, there was an explosion. The person standing before her is Crown Prince David, and she finds herself in a novel where the female lead, Kang Sena, hails from another world and is obviously going to charm everyone around her. While our red-haired girly pop? Well, she is your classic villainess who tends to pick on the female lead, Liana Pond. Liana is amazed that she can remember everything now, but it also makes her notice that something feels off with the timeline since she hasn't done anything villainous or bullied Sena yet. Liana can't help but feel a pang of frustration as she watches David and Sena being all affectionate. To make matters even worse, today is her 20th birthday, the very day in the novel when David is meant to propose to her. When she gets back home, Duke Pond, her father, immediately calls her a disgrace, which makes Liana recall that in the novel, she stubbornly resists and ends up being thrown into the streets. This prompts her to kneel and clasp her hands together, pleading with her father not to send her away. She promises to improve and live more quietly, which catches the Duke off guard and brings a smile to his face. Surely, as a reincarnator, she must have the ability to change the story, right? Right? But nope, her dad totally kicks her out. She holds onto the manor's gate, crying and calling out to her dad that she won't be able to survive without any money, just as her tearful nanny arrives with a carriage behind her. Liana thought her dad had set her up with a place to stay, but nah, the Duke just wants her out of the way. So the nanny's like, let's head to my hometown because the Lord there is really nice. Our poor girl is totally stressed out in the carriage, wishing she had gotten her memories sooner so she could change the story. But then again, it makes her wonder if she really wants to deal with David, who's just so insensitive, arrogant, and selfish. So Liana chooses to see this whole situation as an opportunity to embrace her freedom and enjoy her life. By the time they reach Poston, it's already morning. Liana's nanny gives her a warm hug and reassures her that once she becomes useful again, her father might come looking for her. Yeah, that just makes Liana even more bitter. After that, her nanny leaves, and with a positive mindset, she heads over to her new house. But my goodness, she totally did not see it coming. This house is a total disaster. Like, sleeping on bare ground would be more comfy. All I can say is, her dad is a total jerk for abandoning her. Cobwebs are everywhere, and rainwater is dripping, plus she doesn't have any food to eat. Still, she manages to smile and starts repairing her new home because she refuses to give up. Now that's a strong, independent woman right there. A few months later, some neighbors noticed some improvements at the rundown house, but they had never seen a trace of the Duke's daughter until a child discovered Liana hiding. Liana has no choice but to shyly offer them her sweet potato. She noticed that the weather in this novel world is very similar to that of the present world, which is when she discovered crops in the field. The family she gave the sweet potatoes to wonders where she got such excellent food, prompting her to explain that they're just scattered everywhere. When they ask for more, Liana's eyes sparkle because it's time for her to make money by selling them. It has been 4 years, and I am proud to say that our girl has adapted to Poston. And people already know her, but of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. She was making money by selling sweet potatoes, but 2 years ago, people started picking them themselves, so she looked for something else to offer, which is when she learned that villagers sell their apples as soon as they are ripe. No one really gets farming, but Liana, who studied it, totally slayed. She put in the work to grow the most stunning apples, and now everyone is amazed by how huge and gorgeous they are. They offered it to the Lord of Poston, Lady Aurelian, and Liana was pleasantly surprised to find that it was a lovely elderly woman who recognized her as the daughter of Duke Pond. After selling the apple to Lady Aurelian for 1 gold, Granny offered Liana a job as her estate gardener, but she declined because growing and selling her own produce is more profitable. From what Granny knows, Liana had nothing, She was alone with no one to rely on, so she believes her offer isn't too bad, causing Leanna to proudly ask that Granny invest in her. Granny admired Leanna's confidence and agreed to it, allowing her to sell her harvests and fruits for a greater price. Her fruits also became well known among neighboring lords, who offered her deals, enabling her to buy her own land, hire workers, and raise livestock. She made it completely from scratch. Just her and her love of farming. Today, Granny shares the news that the Crown Prince has recently gotten married, and she wonders if that sparks Leanna's curiosity. No way, ma'am. Our girl is all about that farming life and couldn't care less about that trash. She is cheerfully strolling after harvesting twice as much as last year until she unexpectedly trips after bumping into the perfect, beautiful hoe. That didn't sound right. Not a ho-ho, but a tool hoe. Anyway, she snatches up the rare tool, and out of nowhere it starts talking, asking if she's its new master. Leanna is surprised to find out that the thing she's holding is a talking hoe, but she isn't too shocked since magic is normal in this world. Instead, she feels compelled not to miss out on the precious talking hoe, so she quickly declares herself to be its master. Suddenly, a mystical blue ray of light envelops her, and a mark appears on her right hand, showing that a contract has been made. The hoe then transforms into a sleek sword named Louis Garbong Bontour III, announcing Leanna as its 10th master, leaving her confused and surprised by the hoe's transformation. The sword declared that many have sought him out, but he only allowed himself to be wielded by those destined to become emperors, which makes Leanna even more confused as she scratches the magic circle on her hand, thinking she's discovered something strange. Leanna clarifies that she believes he's misunderstood her and reveals that she's merely an ordinary farmer who doesn't know how to wield a sword. She then suggests that he should look for someone who's both brave and wise, who would suit him better. However, the sword insists that Leanna is its master, prompting her to sigh and pick it up, hoping they will get along, which makes the sword happy. Leanna and Lady Aurelian are enjoying their tea together when Granny casually mentions that something odd is happening in their territory. Trees and grass are flourishing, their dog gives birth to 8 puppies, and the hen lays double-yolked eggs. Leanna just believes that Granny is being blessed before sharing that while exploring the farm, she found something unusual and ended up with a tattoo she doesn't like. After seeing the tattoo, Lady Aurelian quickly instructs her to rewrap her hands, claiming she has a sudden headache and requesting Leanna to leave, which leaves Leanna feeling puzzled. Ooh, it looks like Granny knows something. Once she returns home, she tries to comfort Louis, the frustrated sword, by promising him that she will surely carry him with her next time, which helps him feel better. She then prepares to check the field when she hears a man speaking outside her home, so she opens the door and is surprised to see a handsome blonde man standing there, declaring that he has finally found her, the thief cat. Leanna can't focus at all because she's very captivated by his looks, and she unconsciously calls him her little kitten. Girl, that's not how you respond to a stranger, but I get it. He is dazzling. Before that incident, Cayman Marshal, Emperor of the Marshal Empire, visited his grandmother, Lady Aurelia, to share how much he enjoyed the fruits she sent him. Yes, our granny is the former empress, and she was the first empress to declare divorce because she decided it was better than killing her husband, the emperor, and Cayman's grandfather. This answers why Grandma has such elegant vibes. Cayman found the high-quality fruits odd, and he claimed that the sword vanished from the imperial palace at the same time his grandmother left the empire. And now Poston is experiencing an unusually abundant harvest, which he thinks isn't a coincidence. This prompted Granny to clarify that when she chose to renounce the marshal name, she left everything behind in the imperial palace, but she revealed that one of her vassals, Leanna, has signed a contract with the sword. Now back to the present, Cayman claims to be the owner of Leanna's sword and comes to get it, prompting her to turn to Louis, who firmly proclaims that she is his only owner. This prompts Leanna to ask Cayman what he really wants and warns him not to lie, or she won't open her door again. He decides to introduce himself and shares that he's the grandson of Lady Aurelian, before explaining that the sword is a precious item meant solely for the head of their family, and he assures her that he will compensate her fairly. Louis starts moving frantically and cries, claiming that he wants to be by Leanna's side forever, which surprises Cayman and his men. And although they cannot hear Louis, this confirms that Leanna is the true owner of the sword. After witnessing her baby breakdown, she protects it and claims that the sword has its own will and cannot be given to him if it refuses to leave. Cayman informs her that the sword is a weapon, so he will not hesitate to use force to get it even if she's a lady. He leans in closer, and this girl, totally not getting it, misreads the vibe. Before he can even say a word, she puts her finger to his lips to shush her little kitten, leaving him completely speechless. She suspects he will propose to her since marriage allows them to legally own the sword together. Sweetie, you are not allowed to give them ideas, but that went smoothly. See, now look at this emperor asking for your hand in marriage. Surely our girl knows this isn't serious, but being proposed to is a great experience. So she asks him to bow elegantly, which he does, making her blush. Then she's like, "Nah, I'm good," and just slams the door, leaving Cayman and his knights outside, mouths open in disbelief. Cayman goes back to his grandma's estate to share what happened, letting her know that he's not ready to return to the Empire just yet because his pride is holding him back. Granny finds this interesting because she has never seen her cold grandson express such emotions, and she now believes that something romantic is about to happen, which makes her thrilled. Grandma approves the ship. Today, the queen is ready to battle, which excites Louis since they will finally be slaying enemies. But sorry, Mr. Legendary Sword, your master's battlefield is her farm, so prepare to be used as a garden tool. While she's busy harvesting pumpkins, Cayman arrives and is startled to see her using the ego sword as garden scissors. Still, he decides to lend a hand by moving her harvests. After they finish, Liana prepares a soup that Cayman absolutely loves, along with a refreshing iced tea. He finds it amazing that she dug an ice cave herself, so he offers to help her the next time, but she declines, claiming that she can do it herself, which makes him smile, and he refers to her as a unique person. I'm already loving the Emperor. He seems like such a nice guy. A few years ago, at the Barker Kingdom, the female lead descended like an angel and was treated like an honored visitor. Many wanted to use Sena for political motives, but she eventually fell in love with David and they married. Okay, so you might think this is a classic happy ending for the main characters, but just look at them, already bickering and drifting apart. David dislikes the fact that Sena is upset with him simply because he danced with Lady Altair and gave the mermaid's tear necklace to someone else. You see, sir, Sena has every reason to be frustrated because it appears like you want Lady Altair to become one of your concubines. The necklace? You gave it to a neighboring kingdom's princess. However, it appears that David has made it clear to her from the start that she is a political tool with the privilege of becoming their kingdom's queen. In the novel, David is supposed to be in love with her, thus Sena can't believe he's collecting concubines, while David regrets his beef with Duke Pond. The church wanted to make Sena a saintess to strengthen their influence, which is why they rushed the engagement and dumped Liana to counter the church. He expected the Duke to ask him to make Liana his concubine, but instead he abandoned her and joined the second prince's faction. He starts picturing Liana and is shocked to realize how much he misses her. Now that he's thinking about it, Sena's kinda useless, so he figures it's better to make Liana the crown princess so Duke Pond will come back to his side. How about don't? He expects Liana to jump back into his arms, so he gives the order to find her. This dude disgusts me. Speaking of our girl, she runs into Cayman at Granny's mansion, and when she realizes that he has sunburn from helping her yesterday, she cuts an aloe vera and applies it to his face. It amazes him how refreshing it feels, so he wonders if her parents shared this knowledge with her, prompting her to reveal that she was abandoned since she was useless due to a failed engagement. She senses Cayman wants to know more, but the fact that he isn't asking questions causes her to unconsciously caress his face for being so thoughtful. Granny shows up and thinks it's cute that her two little rascals are both blushing. I agree, Granny. They look adorable together. Lady Aurelian understands that Cayman hasn't told Liana he's the Emperor when he calls her grandma casually. Granny happily goes along with him and tells Liana that it's wonderful she's friends with Cayman since they're the same age, prompting Liana to playfully tease him, leading him to blush again. They then head to the garden where Liana surprises them with watermelon punch and grape juice made from leftovers. Liana explains that leftovers with little market worth are not necessarily bad, especially if they are made with love and care. Cayman's goal is to retrieve the ego sword, but as he comes to know Liana, he realizes why the sword picked her as its master. She waves farewell, which makes him smile and want to wave back, but he holds back since he refuses to acknowledge his racing heart. Someone is already falling. Louis is furious because Liana is so late, and he warns her not to fall for Cayman, who is wicked, to which she agrees to calm this sword down. However, their talk is cut short when her nanny arrives, which Liana finds weird given that she has never visited her. Liana prepares a tea she produced, but her nanny assumes Lady Aurelian must have helped her, which irritates Liana, so she clarifies that she survived solely on her own. Her nanny just scoffs, looking down on her, and tells her that she doesn't know how to earn money, prompting Liana to slam the table and order her to leave. But she freezes when the nanny says that the Duke wants her to return home. This two-faced nanny of hers begins to cry, saying that the Duke is worried about her. Liana may be an airhead, but she knows the Duke is only interested in using her, so she expresses her disinterest in her family. This drives her nanny to scare her into reporting this to the Duke. But who are you scaring? Liana even urges her to tell her father that she has cursed him from head to toe. Today, Cayman receives a call from his sister, Princess Riz, asking when he will return home, as it is not right for an emperor to remain in a foreign place for too long. To those who are curious, Poston is located between the Marshall Empire and the Barker Kingdom, but because Lady Aurelian wishes to cut the empire out of her life, the kingdom allows her to incorporate Poston into their nation. However, the previous emperor, their father, created a teleportation zone connecting Poston to the empire because he missed his mother so much, which is now very handy for Cayman's travel. He then receives word that Liana's nanny paid her a visit a few days ago, and that someone is now spying on her, which they suspect is tied to her former fiancé. This gets Cayman all worked up, but he makes an excuse about wanting to protect Liana because if she gets kidnapped, their sword will also be taken. When he gets to her house, he hears a scream and instantly enters to find her fixing the ceiling. He discovers that she's been doing all of the repairs herself, using the ego sword as a hammer. Even Louis is humiliated at being used as a tool, so he soars away, dragging Liana with him, and she ends up landing on top of Cayman's sturdy chest. Well done, Louis! She can't believe she's starting to see Cayman as a man, so she quickly jumps away, but he follows her since she appears to have hurt her arm. After bandaging her wrist, she offers him lunch, but he declines so she can rest early. As soon as Cayman leaves, Louis apologizes to Liana, but to his surprise, she smooches him for making her hug a national treasure. Louis asks if it is okay with her if Cayman turns out to be an emperor, but their conversation ends when someone knocks on her door. Please don't be David. That evening, Cayman is also unable to concentrate due to the lovely accident this morning, when his grandmother enters to give him a sandwich prepared by Liana as a thank you for helping her earlier. This makes him blush because, despite telling her to rest, she still made an effort, so he decides to visit her tomorrow to thank her. But this time, he admits that he's just making an excuse to see her. Suddenly, his window bangs and he discovers it's the ego sword. Cayman can't hear Louis' voice, so when it starts moving around desperately, he gets confused until he realizes that something must have happened to Liana. Okay, she wasn't abducted or anything, but she's awfully sick right now, and it's all because of the visitor earlier. It was not David, but her lousy father who puzzled Liana because she should not be involved with any of the novel's characters given that the story ended when Sena became engaged to David. Though it is surprising that the lead's engagement was rushed compared to the novel, it remains true that Liana would have died from abandonment because her so-called father didn't care about her at all. Liana firmly confronted her father, reminding him that he has other daughters to marry off. Then, the Duke, being gross, grabs her hand and says the Crown Prince is missing her. She quickly pulls her hand away and in a serious tone says she no longer cares about being the Crown Princess. She also emphasized that she's no longer a pawn before opening the door and urging her father to leave. Wait, he doesn't even deserve that title, so she just calls him Duke instead. I prefer trash, but that will do. It made Liana sick to think that David had the guts to look for her after everything, and knowing her father, she was certain that he would force her to return to David, leading her to believe that she could no longer stay in Poston. Back to the present, Cayman finally arrives, seeming concerned about her, so Liana asks him to grab the medicine from her bag, which causes him to wonder why she prepared such a large bag. He eventually finds out that she intends to leave, leading him to think that her ex-fiancé realized her worth and now wants her back. He feels a pang in his heart as he sees her crying in her sleep, and with a gentle kiss on her hand, he makes a promise to always protect her. Love how he's already head over heels for our girl! When she wakes up the next morning, she notices that Mr. House Husband is wearing that pink apron and has already prepared her breakfast. But, the way she trembles after having a bite suggests he isn't very good at cooking. But aside from that, sir, you are perfect. Cayman then says that he will go wherever she plans to go, and he is so serious that Liena is dazzled by how he's shimmering right now. He opens up to her and shares that he came to Poston to retrieve the ego sword, but his priorities have changed. As he holds her hand, he sweetly expresses his concern for her and shares his intention to stay by her side. Liena is moved by Cayman's concern, but she thinks it's best not to lean on a friend too much, which prompts our guy to become more serious and say that if she has no plans, he would love for her to join him at his home. He kneels, and this time you can tell he is serious when he asks her to marry him, and even Louis supports him, telling Liena that Cayman hurried last night to take care of her. This makes her feel even more guilty because if Cayman stays by her side, he will definitely be in danger. Therefore, she has to reject him. But her fragile heart thinks it's a waste to turn down this attractive, kind, and protective man. Darling, we totally feel you. His charms are just impossible to reject. Now that she thinks about it, she realizes she doesn't need to leave. Instead, she can find a cozy spot to hide, so she quickly decides to go check out the ice cave. Before Liena can leave, Cayman stops her and pins her to the door, still hoping for a response to his confession. This makes her blush deeply, and she warns him that her father is a duke. Your guy is the emperor, sweetie. Cayman promises to protect her, and as he gently turns her to face him, he delicately asks her to date him with marriage in mind. Wow, that was so smooth and hot! That evening, Cayman contacts his younger sister Riz and tells her blushingly that he has met someone he wants to marry, which causes her to shout in surprise. Well, she's not against it. It's just that he's never been interested in girls, and he only likes cats, so his statement is pretty shocking. After informing Riz about Liena, Cayman instructs her to investigate the house pond in order to bring it down, as well as to make Poston part of the Empire's territory. This gives Riz a headache, which she blames on Cayman being a late bloomer, but she is delighted Liena consented to marry him, the Emperor. I'm glad she's supportive. However, this causes Cayman to hesitate and reveal to her that Liena is unaware of his true identity. Today, Liena is feeling quite flushed, not because she is still ill, but it's just hard for her to wrap her head around the fact that, despite not knowing much about Cayman and having her fair share of problems, she actually said yes to dating him. Cutie. Anyway, she goes to see Granny to tell her about her father and the Crown Prince attempting to take her back, and she tells her shyly that her boyfriend proposes she just stay in Poston. This is Cayman's signal to enter the room, confirming that he and Liena are dating, which has Granny all excited and wanting them to marry and have 3 children already. It's adorable that they've only been dating for a day and aren't hiding it from everyone. After Lady Aurelian calms down, she recommends that Liena remain at her mansion because Duke Pond will be unable to enter, which Liena gratefully agrees to, and she's led to her room by the butler. As soon as she leaves, Granny becomes serious and asks Cayman when he is planning to tell Liena about him being the Emperor, as she is worried that Liena might feel betrayed if he doesn't tell her now. The truth is, he doesn't mean to keep it a secret, it's just that he's afraid that she will choose the farm over him. I see his point. I too feel that Liena is content with her simple lifestyle, so jumping into the whole Empress thing could definitely freak her out. Still, Grandma warns him that a relationship based on lies will undoubtedly fail. She speaks from experience because her husband, who swore to love her, eventually lied and became a womanizer emperor. Lady Aurelian's problematic marriage was well known because she was an amazing swordswoman before joining the Empire, and Cayman wonders if his grandmother would have been happier if she hadn't married his grandfather. Ooh, Granny was a baddie. I'm intrigued! As a result, he is determined that he will never force Liena to abandon her passion of farming for him, so his new plan is to protect her and her farm. He is such a green flag. He heads to her room, inviting her for a walk, and you can tell that as a couple just starting out in this dating adventure, they seem a bit awkward but absolutely adorable. This is the first time Liena's heart has felt ticklish, as she previously felt only heavy heart when she was with David. When Cayman kindly wants to hold her hand, she can't help but cry from how warm he is, so she smiles and admits how much she likes him. This turns him red, and he sees an opportunity to tell her that there are things he can't say yet, so he asks her to wait until he's ready, which causes her to take his hand and agree to wait because she trusts him. That evening, Leanna's combing her hair, getting ready for sleep, but she feels like she forgot something. And yes, girl, it's Louis! Poor Louis arrives feeling upset because Leanna hasn't returned home, prompting her to apologize and share that they will be staying at the Lord's mansion for the time being. I can't believe I'm finding a female lead lying in bed with a sword adorable right now. The next morning, a lady with short blonde hair enters Leanna's room, introduces herself as Susan, and claims she has come to see her. Susan follows Leanna to the garden, curious about why she's picking the bland wild raspberries. This prompts our girl to explain that she can actually turn them into a delicious jam. Susan is even more surprised to learn that Leanna makes the jam and all the food she eats by herself, so she decides to lend a hand in picking the fruits. Meanwhile, Louis is hiding behind a tree as he watches Cayman practice, feeling a special connection to his first master, the first emperor, through him. Louis actually became a display piece, much like a valued heirloom, but he managed to endure it because he could still feel the presence of his first master among the emperors that followed. However, Louis's patience ran out because of the former emperor, Cayman's grandfather, who couldn't even hear his voice. That's why when Lady Aurelian left, he decided to go along with her secretly. Louis is still lost in his thoughts when Cayman comes over and asks if he's here because he wants to be wielded. As soon as Cayman holds the sword, Louis gets really excited, convincing himself that this is just to see if Cayman is a good match for Leanna. Speaking of his master, Leanna notices them from a distance, prompting Louis to rush over to her and exclaim that he is a bad sword. He looks like a guilty cheater! Cayman then feels puzzled when he sees the person behind Leanna, as this lovely blondie is actually his little sister and the second princess of the empire. They go in and Susan watches Leanna casually speaking to Cayman and her grandmother, prompting her to wonder if Leanna is unaware of who her brother is. Cayman promptly cuts her off and leads her outside, while Granny explains to Leanna that Cayman has two twin sisters, making our girl freak out because her sister-in-law drama is about to kick off. Things are going to get exciting! After Cayman discloses everything, Susan is furious that her brother is lying because he's afraid Leanna will hate him, despite the fact that their true goal is to obtain the ego sword, which represents that he's the emperor. Cayman has no problem with it because if their marriage goes through, he will have shared ownership of the sword. Solution accepted, but she cautions him that he cannot stay in a foreign country for too long, which Cayman has already addressed. Make Poston a part of the empire. He then pats her shoulder to calm her down and requests that she keep his identity a secret, but this only makes his little sister yell at him, calling him an idiot. Today, Leanna has two not-so-little crybabies trailing behind her. Louis is adorably sobbing while holding onto a lock of her hair, and Susan is quietly tearing up as well. These three are so cute to watch. Leanna's goal for today is to trim the overgrown greenhouse, causing Susan to tell her that this is why they have gardeners, and yell that an empress should not be doing this. Leanna believes Susan is venting her frustrations to her, but she also informs her that a leader should lead and be busier than anybody else, reminding Susan of Cayman, who once told her the same thing. Susan finally understands why her brother fell for Leanna, and she reveals that Cayman had a difficult upbringing because of their grandfather. Their grandfather constantly punished Riz and Susan for not being the greatest, but they had Cayman who always protected them. He may be cold and nag a lot, but he has always supported her in her wants, which Leanna understands because she has never felt Cayman ridicule her for farming. Leanna beams with a big smile, sharing that Cayman was a blessing, which helped Susan finally accept her, and hopes Leanna takes good care of her brother. Susan also shares that they will soon become a family, which truly warms Leanna's heart. They shake hands, and just then they hear a commotion. Mr. Crappy Duke Pond is trying to enter the mansion. Granny takes it upon herself to manage the situation, sensing that Cayman might react impulsively to the one who caused Leanna so much pain. Granny accepts the Duke into her mansion, and he expresses his wish to have his daughter returned, as the Crown Prince is missing her. The nerve, right? The Duke insists that he's just fulfilling his duty to ensure his daughter finds happiness, which has left Granny quite irritated since she has seen that Leanna is living happily in Poston. If he truly wants to make Leanna happy, she suggests that he leave her alone. However, this sperm donor believes that Leanna should repay her life as the Duke's daughter by serving her family. I wish I could slap this man! Meanwhile, at the greenhouse, a knight from House Pond sneaks in and grabs Leanna, attempting to drag her to the Duke, prompting Susan to fight back. However, Liana, the big sister here, does not want Susan to get hurt, so she cuts her off, preferring that the knight simply talk to her and tells him that invading territory is equivalent to declaring war. The knight simply smirks at her, claiming that they are all doing this for her sake so she can become the most powerful woman in the country. Shut up, ugly kickable face! You're talking to the soon-to-be empress here! You know what else the knight does? He refers to our girl as a useless half-wit, which really angers Louis because he believes his master is the most amazing master he's ever had. Louis starts to glow and requests Liana to wield him. To her surprise, she finds that she can actually fight. But this isn't some hidden talent or whatever. It's all thanks to Louis. So with total confidence, Liana runs up to the knight and in a totally epic move, she breaks his sword. Susan is totally shook and calls Liana her cool sister-in-law, which absolutely surprises Liana because she just leveled up to sister-in-law status. She has just captured Susan's heart, and Louis has won mine. Cayman and Granny arrive, and Susan is just adorable as she reassures her brother that they're okay because her sister-in-law took care of the knights. As much as I want our girl to be that baddie female lead, she's just your charming farmer, so she explains that it's all thanks to Louis's power. When she mentions that all of the past master's exceptional skills are thanks to Louis, Cayman is so surprised to learn that the past emperor's prowess comes from the sword. Meanwhile, Lady Aurelian is feeling down because the agave plant, the only thing she brought with her after the divorce, got damaged. She then becomes enraged, and the sleeping great swordswoman inside her awakens, so she orders her armor and sword to be prepared for war. In the past, it was Aurelian's support during the Civil War that helped the fourth prince rise to the throne as emperor. Apparently, the fourth prince gave her the last agave plant left after the Civil War took the others, and he used it to propose to her. Aurelian recognized that this man had his flaws, but she had fallen so deeply in love that she chose to become the empress and remain by his side. But the man she once loved changed, leading her to regret leaving her country and trusting that they would live together happily. Aurelian was a strong woman, and she left him without any second thoughts, along with the plant. For real, cheaters don't deserve a second chance. Now, back to our couple, Liana insists that she never wants to leave and just wants to stay with Cayman and Poston, which makes him blush as he reassures her that he will take care of everything. Sena is just looking at the passed-out David and realizing that those so-called loyal male leads are totally a joke. She then spots something on his desk and realizes it's a picture of a girl. Yup, it's a picture of Liana, the villainess of the novel that Sena knows about. It doesn't make sense to her that David misses Liana, at least not until she discovers a document announcing that the prophecy regarding her has been interpreted incorrectly. The prophecy is what led them to get married, so this announcement seems to suggest that David is looking to end things with her. Sena also finds a letter from Duke Pond, discovering that Liana is staying in Poston. With her belief that Liana is just a villainous character, she thinks that Liana must have done something to win David over. Because of this, Sena decides to head to Poston and meet up with Liana before David gets the chance. Cayman remembers how his grandfather treated him so harshly, simply because he was loved by everyone, unlike his grandfather who only relied on his own strength, which was actually Louis's power. Cayman put in so much effort to gain recognition, but it looks like his grandpa wasn't quite what he seemed. A cheater and a scammer? Anyway, he needs to stop his grandmother or his plan will fail. So he discloses his idea to make Poston part of the Empire's territory, and convinces her that it is better not to wage territorial war. As the landowner, Aurelian has the authority to transfer ownership of her property, so Cayman informs her of his plans after a serious request. If Grandma gives it to Cayman, her grandson, and the Emperor, the Barker Kingdom will undoubtedly be outraged. However, if she gives it to Cayman and Liana's future child, there likely won't be any complaints since Liana is a citizen of the kingdom. It definitely sounds like a great idea, but Grandma thinks Cayman should try to persuade Liana to move to the Empire first. However, our guy has picked up a lot from Grandma's experience and believes Liana should make her own choice. Thanks to this, Aurelian realizes that even though her marriage didn't work out, they left behind children who are leading the Empire with potential, bringing a smile to her face and influencing her decision to steer clear of war. But I can't help but feel a bit disappointed because just look at the Duke lurking over Liana's crops with a devious smile. Huh, peace is not an option for this bastard. That evening, Liena awakens to Cayman, alerting her that the farm is on fire. Everyone works together to extinguish the fire, but the watermelons are all gone. And when one of the villagers claims to have seen a guy pour oil on the field, Liena knows it's all her father's doing. Cayman vows to catch the criminal and have him kneel in front of her. He also mentions that after this, he will share something important with her. To accomplish this, Cayman orders Riz to submit a marriage notice to the Barker Kingdom, along with the notification that Poston would soon be annexed to the Martial Empire. Suddenly, Louis appears, eager to assist Cayman in avenging what happened to Liena's farm, and he effortlessly fits into Cayman's hand. His knight becomes overly excited, but Cayman understands Louis is doing this for Liena's sake, which makes this cheating sword cry at how humble Cayman is. Speaking of the bastard, Duke Pond is yelling outside the mansion for Liena to come out, and since he's accompanied by knights, Cayman has a reason to capture them all as intruders. Susan kicks the Duke's butt as Cayman aims his sword at him, smiling and greeting his father-in-law. Iconic! As promised, Cayman brings the Duke kneeling in front of Liena, who promptly bows and apologizes to her. However, there is no hope for this guy because he continues to believe that all he did was for her benefit, which frustrates her, and all she wants is to never see him again. Cayman then glares at the Duke, expecting him to receive the message, forcing him to swear never to show up again. Liena watches her father go, realizing that his insincere apology only leaves her feeling empty, but she nevertheless thanks Cayman and Louis for sticking up for her. Louis instantly approaches his master, screaming that she should punish him rather than praise him, leaving Liena confused as to why this cheating, adorable sword is so distressed. Anyway, it's time for Liena to start afresh, so she's smilingly tying her hair and getting ready for fieldwork, while Cayman quietly observes Liena's tanned complexion, tucked hair, and roughened fingers. She is not one of the females his father mentioned, but our guy is so captivated that he could not ask for anything more. He kisses her hands and admires her strength before nearly disclosing his identity, but is stopped when Susan appears to clean the dirt off Liena's face. Liena leaves with Susan after realizing how dirty she is right now, leaving Cayman blown away. The mood plus sunset? That was the perfect moment to confess! That evening, Cayman goes to notify Granny that they will send a notification to the Barker Kingdom saying Duke Pond has gone to the Empire to attend Liena's wedding. But this is clearly a lie, because he intends to leave the Duke at Poston so that Granny can punish him. This sounds fantastic for Granny, because if the Barker Kingdom hears that the Emperor has encountered their loyal subject, Duke Pond, they would undoubtedly make a move. However, if they fake that he will attend his daughter's wedding, then everyone will stop talking about it. A few days after the fire, something unusual began to grow from Granny's agave plant. But don't worry, according to our plant expert Liena here, it's the time of year when the plant blooms. Liena joyfully accepts the task of checking on the agave till it blooms, while Cayman watches on the sidelines, blushing and admiring her cute pigtails and straw hat. Everything is all lovely until they hear that the Crown Princess, Sena, has come to visit Liena. This worries Cayman, but our girl insists on meeting Sena alone, and with a reassuring smile, she quickly heads off to change into a more suitable outfit. Cayman admires Liena's headstrong nature, but he wishes she would run when things get rough since he doesn't want her to be hurt. He remembers Sena because she was a symbol of the kingdom's prosperity, which made them arrogant toward the Martial Empire, who had lost the mighty ego sword. The thought of how they insulted Liena in the past tears his heart, so he disguises himself as a servant to see if Sena is here to make trouble. However, his plan fails because the moment Sena sees him, she immediately grabs his hand and recognizes him as the Emperor based on his golden hair and blue eyes. They hurriedly move to the reception room, where no one can hear them, and Cayman gets confused when Sena begins yapping that he's meant to appear in part 2, and that the narrative has changed greatly. To his disbelief, she pushes him to the corner and flirtatiously wonders whether he has already fallen in love with her, given that he prefers bold and forthright women. Well, she is correct that he prefers those features in a woman, but you, Delulu girl, aren't her, but Liena. As a very loyal boyfie, Cayman slaps Sena's hand away and urges her to back off, just in time for Liena to catch them in an awkward position. Oh no, I really hope this doesn't create any mistrust between them. Cayman rushes to Liena's side, telling her not to misunderstand. But Sena, full of arrogance, claims that Liena interrupted them. She then accuses our girl of flirting with her husband, which boggles Liena, who quickly responds that Sena is the one who is wall-pinning someone else's fiancé. Look at Cayman being such a baby girl as if he got violated. However, Sena doesn't buy the whole engagement thing, and even has the nerve to ask Liena to get her a room while plopping down on the sofa, leaving our couple speechless. She screams that they need to treat the crown princess right, but sorry, not sorry, you're in a former empress's mansion, so grandma mercilessly kicks her out. Love how they deal with that bratty female lead. As soon as Sena leaves, Cayman confesses to Liena that he disguised himself as a servant, but was caught by Sena, who cites things like original story and part 2, which surprises Liena. This makes her think that there must be a second portion to the story that she hasn't read, and Cayman must be the second male lead in that book. This also implies that Sena is inside a novel's character's body as well, which explains why Sena cannot believe Cayman is engaged to the villainess, which is not in the original story. Now that she thinks about it, Cayman might fall for Sena, exactly like in the novel, so she tells him with a troubled expression that while she trusts him, she hopes he doesn't get close to or show interest in Sena. Cayman enjoys Liena's jealousy, but she quickly denies it, claiming that anyone who sees their lover being wall-pinned by someone will undoubtedly feel similarly to her, leading him to admit his mistake and swear not to put himself in such a shameful position again. That evening, Cayman can't get over how strange Sena acted and how Liena reacted, so he resolves to investigate the matter further. In the second book of the novel, Sena will become the owner of the Ego Sword, and Cayman, who is looking for the sword, will fall for her, resulting in a love triangle between him and David. However, it has been 2 years since Sena's wedding, and Cayman and the sword have yet to appear, leaving her cranky. When the maids keep telling her that David is merely preoccupied with work, she doesn't worry, since she feels that once his rival Cayman arrives, David will realize how much he loves her. She is positive that this will happen because, after all, she is the novel's female lead. Girl, the problem is your attitude. Stop being immature and maybe David will love you back. In any case, Sena has no choice but to spend the night in her carriage, so she tells her maid Manya to install air conditioning immediately. Manya regrets leaving Liena to serve this spoiled crown princess. Manya proposes they return to the palace, but Sena refuses since she's confident that now that Cayman has arrived, David will love her again. Suddenly, a lovely knight appears, causing Sena to scream his name, Ancre, prompting Ancre to raise his guard. Oh, Sir is stunning! She quickly gives an excuse, claiming that as a saint, she has seen him in her dreams and is aware that they are in the kingdom to recover the Ego Sword. She also knows about Douglas Marshall, Cayman's uncle, who is vying for the crown, which makes Ancre wonder if Sena can truly see the future. However, he gets confused when Sena boasts that she would find the Ego Sword and fix the Douglas issue, given that Liena already has it. He decides to tell her they have discovered clues to the whereabouts of the sword, and are now intending to return to the Empire, which surprises her so much that she blurts out that they cannot leave until the story wraps up. She still needs Cayman to fall in love with her, so she makes a request to Ancre. Ancre immediately reports back to Cayman, telling him that Sena wishes to go with him to the Empire. Cayman can't comprehend what Sena is thinking because a crown princess from another country traveling alone to the Empire is unusual. This prompts Ancre to explain how Sena was ranting about seducing Cayman and how her alleged ability to glimpse the future does not match the truth. What grabs Cayman's interest is Ancre's statement that Sena stated the story again as if they were characters in a novel, so he resolves to let Sena do anything she wants. From what he can tell, Sena will continue to follow him, thus if he stays in Poston, that girl will undoubtedly stay as well, which causes Ancre to be concerned that this may create diplomatic issues. All they need to do is have Manya confirm that the crown princess is not being forced to stay, and if Manya values her life, she will return to the palace and alert them of the situation. This plan better not hurt our girl. Today, Liena lures Susan to help her on the farm by offering her delicious handmade meals, but she also notes that the once talkative sword has become extremely quiet, leading her to believe that he is going through puberty. Look at her cutely attempting to cheer Louis up and reassuring him that he can always talk to her if he has any problems, which prompts Louis to ask her how she will react if someone else claims they want him. Liena assumes Louis is talking about Sena, because they are both from another world and must emit the same energy, which likely makes Louis anxious. As a result, our girl vows that she will never allow anyone to take him, whether it is a saintess or a demon lord, which makes Louis feel even worse that he is still thinking about Cayman. Poor Sword, all this two-timing guilt he's feeling is honestly hilarious. After a day of plowing the field, they are finally finished, but Susan, the gorgeous sister-in-law, finds it all entertaining and wonders if there is any more work she can assist with. This prompts Leanna to smile shyly and ask if she may assist her with something in her home. Manya pleads with Sana not to trust the knight's words, but Sana has already decided to go to the Empire. This leads Manya to explain that the kingdom and the Empire are at odds, stressing that this is not a place for her to visit impulsively. However, Sana believes the Emperor wants to return to the Empire with her. This belief arose after Lord Ancre visited her that early morning to inform her that if she is truly set on leaving for the Empire, he will personally escort her. Although Manya continues to try to persuade her, Sana simply tells her to be quiet and follow her. She's convinced that once she acquires the Ego Sword, just like in the original story, Cayman will fall for her and everything will unfold as planned, leaving Manya stunned as she watches Sana walk away. Meanwhile, David is surprised by the report that the Empire has issued a notice about a territorial change, indicating that Lady Aurelian has agreed to return Poston to the Empire before her passing. His aide further informs him that the Empire has also sent an engagement notice, which confuses David and makes him curious about whether the future Empress hails from their kingdom. Hesitantly, his aide reveals that the engagement is with Lady Leanna Pond, shocking David, especially since Duke Pond has traveled to Poston to bring her back. His aide hands him the letter, revealing that Duke Pond agrees to his daughter's marriage with Emperor Cayman Marshal, leading David to conclude that he has betrayed him. In a fit of rage, he orders troops to rush to Poston to stop the Emperor from marrying Leanna. However, his aide informs him that Poston has a teleportation link to the Empire, implying that Leanna has already used it to leave for the Empire, which enrages him even more as he blames Duke Pond. Now, back to the couple, Cayman visits Leanna, who sheepishly invites him inside, and then surprises him by boldly asking him to marry her while also handing him flowers, saying that she will support the two of them. I'm internally screaming and hoping for Cayman to confess right now. Susan teases her brother because surely this is not where they would live, but to her surprise, Cayman takes the flowers and expresses his love for their home. Leanna has ensured that there is no turning back by preparing a marriage contract, making this honey bunch cutie pie, who will soon be her husband, blush at her efforts. This is very cute, but sir, you should tell her the truth before marrying her. Cayman tells Susan to contact the high priest to officiate the wedding, but an emperor wouldn't marry in the countryside, right? However, Susan gives up after seeing her brother ignore her and focus on Leanna. She then resolves to simply be happy for the couple. They sign the marriage contract, so legally they are married, but Cayman needs to prepare something before they can begin living together, so they decide to wait till the priest arrives for their official wedding ceremony. This is giving me a headache! The next day, Leanna gets confused to see the Poston border flags being converted into the Marshall Empire's flag. Like, how can a region change territory so fast? Power of love, babe! And power of the Emperor. Anyway, she goes to the greenhouse because the agave flower has finally bloomed, and they begin asking for wishes, with our girl wishing to be happy with Cayman every day. When she glances at Cayman, she becomes really shy because our guy is already staring at her with those charming smiles. Susan, who is becoming a farmer by the day, arrives and asks Leanna if there's any more digging to be done today. But there appears to be none because Leanna plans to check on the bees she's been raising in the forest. Cayman joins Leanna and believes that integrating this forest as part of the imperial border will improve their defense. It's okay, just say you're doing this for Leanna. Suddenly, Leanna trips over a stone. Cue that sha-la-la song, as they look especially adorable here as Cayman hugs her. He suggests they hold hands or that he give her a piggyback ride if she likes, while Louis is irritated, saying Leanna should let go of him so she can spend time with her lover. Seeing the two fighting, Cayman wonders if he should carry Louis for her, which makes this sword blushy because he craves to return to those great arms. However, he feels guilty again and runs away, calling himself garbage, while Leanna reassures Cayman that Louis is simply going through puberty. Personality? Bet. A handsome face? Perfect. A great swordsman? Certainly. Louis feels so alive when Cayman wields him, but he doesn't want to betray Liana either, so he's super torn right now. Suddenly, they hear a scream and see Louis being snatched by a flying monster. Liana rushes to where it is and swears to make that monster pay, while Cayman's in the back just vibing and admiring how fierce his girl is. Just a man in love. Cutie. When the monster eventually lands on the ground, Cayman unleashes an attack that causes it to scream in pain, but also breaks his sword in two. He then hurriedly snatches Louis and throws him near Liana, but this puts him in danger. Liana instantly requests Louis to control her body as he did the last time, but fighting a monster is different, and controlling her untrained body will undoubtedly endanger her life. If that's the problem, Liana throws Louis to where Cayman is and commands him to partner up with Cayman from now on so that he can reach his full potential. So, with a single slash, the duo swiftly destroys the monster, making Liana realize that this is what has been bothering Louis all along. He shines when he's with Cayman, so she requests him to be honest about his feelings, causing this lovely sword to admit that he wants to be Cayman's sword. Yes, he finally said it! Liana scolds Louis for not admitting this sooner because she's willing to let him go as long as he likes his new master and is worthy of wielding him. This causes Louis to cry because he has no intention of ever breaking the pact with her and wants to protect her until his last breath. Louis turns to Cayman because we all know his mission is to get him back, and now that he has accomplished that, he no longer needs Liana. Having stated so, Louis asks Cayman directly whether his objective or Liana is more important to him right now. To be honest, Liana is avoiding this topic because she too is scared that all of Cayman's kindness is a cover to gain the sword. Imagining Cayman saying such harsh words causes her to cry, but to her surprise, Cayman comes to her side and assures Louis that he would always prioritize her. True, his purpose is to obtain the sword, but he has nothing without Liana now, and as he wipes away her tears, he tells her that he will never leave her. This is the response Louis expects from him, so to seal the contract, a mark emerges on Cayman's hand. Now that the family issue has been addressed, Liana goes to check on the bees and shows Cayman the delectable honeycomb. When he notices the honey trickling from her hands, he makes an excuse that they shouldn't waste it, so he takes her hand and begins licking it. He thinks it's sweet, but those eyes say he wants to try something else. So he leans forward to kiss her, but their son ruins the moment. Honestly, I want Louis to keep interrupting them until Cayman decides to tell the truth. You know, just a little punishment. Anyway, Cayman happily informs Liana that while they are here in the forest, he already gave an order to have their home renovated. When they arrive home, Liana is astounded at how shiny and how everything has been renovated in her house, especially the bigger bed, making both of them blush. Seriously, these two! That night, when Cayman says he'll leave as soon as she sleeps, Liana's face just drops because she totally thought tonight was going to be their first night together. When they believe Liana has fallen asleep, the two lads decide to have a heart-to-heart, with Louis declaring that he does not entirely trust Cayman because he has yet to tell Liana the truth. Cayman confesses that he is worried because he's unsure how much Liana likes him, but he is hopeful that Louis will not doubt his love for Liana, which our girl hears. She sits up and assures him that she loves him more than anybody else, and that as long as he isn't connected with loan sharks or gangsters, everything will be okay. Cayman wraps his arms around her small figure, and Liana embraces him back, hoping he won't try too hard and simply treat her as he does now. Her words definitely give him tingles, and he moves in for a kiss. But just before things can heat up, Louis interrupts them, saying he isn't ready to marry Liana off just yet. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Palace, Douglas is screaming at Princess Riz, demanding to see the Emperor after hearing about his marriage. This guy must be anxious because if the Emperor produces an heir, his chance to take the throne will be lost, so he refuses to have an empress from another nation. This prompts Riz to advise her uncle against doubting the decision of the matchmaker, who is also his mother and the former Imperial Empress, Lady Aurelian. Sissy gets limited screen time, but I'm already loving her vibe. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next one!